The shooting range. In this episode, Pages of History, the first air ramming challenge, capturing areas on floatplanes, and metal beasts, the versatile vampire. Many late piston-engine fighters had amazing levels of flight performance and a hefty arsenal against ground targets. The early jet-era planes could only dream of such versatility. But we still managed to find an early jet that posed a threat to both enemy planes and ground vehicles. Please welcome the British plane in service of the Italian Air Force, the Vampire FB-52A. The British and Swedish tech trees have similar models, but today we're going to talk about the Italian model only. The aircraft is propelled by a turbojet engine. The wings and the fuselage house self-sealing fuel tanks. For mixed armament, the plane has a battery of 4 20mm cannons, while its own survivability is provided by steel plates and bulletproof glass. As for fighting tanks, there are a couple of bombs or 8 rockets you can take on board. Vampire pilots will enjoy its balanced flight performance in air battles. Its top speed sets no records, but it's enough to race most piston-engine planes. As for enemy jets, you can take them into a dogfight instead. Its firepower is provided by 4 20mm cannons that don't compare all too well with its opponents, but compensate for that with a good location, great ballistics, and a nice ammo count. We recommend going for the minimal fuel load. There's no afterburner on this plane, which makes extra fuel a burden. After takeoff, we recommend you speed up to 500 kph and set your nose at 10 degrees above the horizon. If you want to avoid the thick of the battle, turn aside a little at this stage. The easiest and most confident way to earn a frag with this plane is to meet an enemy in a frontal attack. When they're still about 2 kilometers away from you, send a volley at them and dodge their own fire. If the enemy is still alive, dogfighting them is an option. The Vampire feels excellent in a dogfight, but if your enemy is piloting a Horton or a Yak-15, they can beat you all right. The only way to fight them is to boom and zoom. Finally, mixed battles. We recommend you start with destroying an enemy tank by dropping a couple of 1,000-pound bombs on them. You get a frag this way and lighten your plane enough to fight the enemy aircraft. When the skies seem clean, the rockets are a better option. They're located close to the center axis of the plane, which makes each of the 4 launches count. This tragic story about the first confirmed air ramming in the history of jet aviation started with the lucky streak of a young Soviet Air Force captain, Serafim Subotin. Of course, he was an experienced navigator and air tactician by the time the Korean War began, so it was much more than pure luck. Still, the combat luck was on his side, especially on the 12th of April 1951, the Black Thursday, a day famous for one side and tragic for another. On that day, Captain Subotin managed to get 2 American planes down. First, a heavy B-29, and then a fleeing Thunderjet, or was it a shooting star? It was pretty hard to judge in the heat of the battle. Later, he even scored a Sabre plane, a new and fearsome enemy equal to MiG-15. The lucky streak could not last forever, of course. The Americans were quick to learn. Since the era of piston-engine strategic bombers was over, and there was no replacement in sight, they chose to cover them with as many fighters as possible. Any MiGs that got through had to be downed at any price, even rammed if need be. So, in the morning of the 18th of June 1951, the Korean city of Ranju saw a stern battle unfolding in the skies. 16 newest American Sabres were trying to tie up 8 North Korean MiGs in a battle to clean the skies for the upcoming wave of the B-29s. Captain Subotin quickly joined the dogfight and destroyed an F-86, only to be attacked himself. Not 1, but 2 Sabres were on his 6, and there was no time to think. After a wall of Browning tracer bullets missed, the pilot threw his fighter into what seemed to be a saving dive. But the American pilot was expecting it. He moved even closer and ripped the MiG's engine to shreds with all his cannons. The engine stopped. It was time to bail out. But leaving a plane at that speed was simply crazy. He needed a way to slow the machine down and pull the nose up. Subotin himself remembers the moment. I shot off the cockpit canopy, opened the switched lid and used the brake flaps. The plane's speed went down, and that's when I felt a strong hit on my back. I thought my plane exploded and it was too late for me, but I was wrong. The American pilot definitely didn't expect such a quick break and crashed into the plane he'd just shot. A few seconds later, the Soviet pilot managed to bail out. The American pilot, Captain William D. Crone, never made it. Later, Serafim Subotin was cheered as the first pilot to successfully perform an air ramming on a jet plane. He was promoted to major by the end of the war and received the highest title of the Hero of the Soviet Union. He himself, though, would always dismiss any attempts to learn more about the story and never thought of the act as something heroic. It was just an accident where Subotin was lucky while his opponent wasn't. They say that North Korean soldiers found the deceased pilot's documents that said William Crone, born June 18, 1917. So he died on his 34th birthday. Luck and curse often go so close during wartime, you can't see the difference. In today's challenge, we'll try to capture a point in a naval battle by piloting a floatplane. We'll start with something small and agile, and then increase the difficulty. So, our first battle, earning some points to swap to a Japanese F-1M. This seems to be a good moment. Our allies destroyed the enemy boats and will soon start the capture. Let's land there quickly. Just a couple of seconds away from the capture. Well, that was our first attempt, so no reason to give up, yet. Earning more points to spawn a plane and embark on our tricky mission. The enemy team captured its home point and left it unattended, we see. That's a good chance. Let's get it from the rear and land right here. The enemy spotted our effort and tried to turn, but too late. The point is ours, and we head off right away. Now, let's make the task harder by choosing a larger plane. This American PBY-5 Catalina will do just fine. The first few battles were unsuccessful, and enemy boats would meet our clumsy flying boat with thick fire. But here's another one. We've got a high enough score. Let's do it. Waiting for just the right moment on a good altitude. Here it is, a neutral point with not a vessel in sight. Landing right here. Gotcha. Let's make it even harder. Now we're going to pilot the Japanese 4-engined H-8K nicknamed Emily by the Allies. Even a simple landing on water is tough with this monster. Much less in an area full of enemy fire. But In one of our battles, we spotted a lone destroyer around the capture area. Sending a couple of torpedoes to its side opens up a great opportunity for us. Now, it's time for the final boss, the biggest plane in the game. The German 6-engined BV-238. Hitting to battle earned enough spawn points. And here we go. Here's a free point in the open seas. Looks like a good chance. We're going in lower. And before we even touch the surface, an enemy destroyer stops the attempt in its tracks. Okay, so let's try again. As soon as we spawn, we quickly dive on a free area, flying close to the flutter point before enemy vessels get there. Once we get lower, we drop our speed with a sharp turn. The landing was so hard that one of the floats fell off, but we managed to keep it afloat. A few anxious seconds in, and yes, challenge completed. Time to get back to base. By the way, did anyone count how many capture missions we've done? Send us your ideas for challenges in the comments. We enjoy reading them. And now, it's time we answered your questions. The first question was sent by a player called 02. Will there be an updated version of the best MBT triathlon? Hi there. Little has changed since we held the first top MBT triathlon, so let's wait a little more. We do like the idea of updating the major ground triathlon, so we'll definitely do it as soon as more modern machines join the game. BF109 asks, is the skin on the WT Live page visible to my enemies? Hi there. Nope, you're the only one who can see it. Another question comes from Iced Emu 6014. I recently unlocked the DO335A1 in the German tech tree. Any tips on how to use it? Hello there, Iced Emu. In air battles, we recommend you use boom and zoom or frontal attacks while avoiding dogfights. This plane performs best as an attack aircraft. First, drop your bombs, then enjoy the 30mm cannon with armor-piercing shells. Atomic Vortex writes, why does the Object 120 APF SDS have less penetration than top-tier MBTs when the Object 120 has a longer barrel and a bigger caliber? Hi there! Besides caliber and muzzle velocity, APF SDS rounds need a good aspect ratio, meaning the ratio between their length and diameter. As fin-stabilized sabot rounds developed, their aspect ratios went up, so an early 152mm APF SDS may have a lower penetration rate than a modern 120 or 125mm round. And the last comment for today was written by Cold Heat. Will there ever be an option to turn these unrealistic tank decorations and bushes off? Hi there. There's an option to turn fictional camos and decorators off. Go to Options, Main Parameters, Customization of Vehicles, and choose Excerpt Fictional in the difficulty mode you need. That's it for today. You've been watching The Shooting Range by Gaijin Entertainment, and the next episode will premiere the following Sunday at 4 p.m. GMT or noon Eastern Time. Subscribe and click the bell if you don't want to miss our next videos. Don't forget to leave a like. Share your thoughts and comments, we hope, and we'll definitely see you next week.